Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hari.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hari.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glory to the
Hare
Prabhupada.
Bol.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Vitale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityaname Namaste. Vishnu Padaya Prabhupada. Narayana Namaskritya Narottama Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gutirayat Ashtaprahisvagati Sunityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. So, this class this morning is on third canto, the status quo, and chapter 8, Brahma coming from Gaudakshay Vishnu. Just paraphrasing the title. And we're doing the 6 texts, which take us to the end of the chapter. Text 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33. So 28 is on now, and maybe we could just start with that chanting, and everybody can join in the chanting for this first one. Okay. Kadamba kinjal kapishanga basasa swalankritam me kalaya nitambe Arena Chananta Danena Vata Shivasa Vaksha Stalava Labena Kadamba Kinjalka Vishanga Vasasa Swalankritam Me Kalaya Nitambe Harena Chananta Danena Vatsa Shivatsa Vaksha Stalava Labena Kadamba Kinjal Kapishanga Vasasa Swalankritam Mekalaya Nitambe Harena Chananta Danena Vatsa Shrivatsa Vaksha Stalabalabena. Hare Krishna. Please don't beat yourself and chant the one.
Kadamba Kinjalka Pisanga Vasasa Swalankritam Mekhalaya Nitambe Harena Chananta Dhanena Vatsa Srivatsa Vaksha Stalavallapena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kadamba Kinjalalka Pishanga Bhashasha Shalankritam Mekhalayam Nitambe Arena Chananta Dhanena Vatsa Srivatsa Vaksha Sthala Vallabena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji can start chanting.
Hare Krishna. Kadamba Kinjalka Vasanga Vasasa Solantritam Me Kalayanitambe Harena Chananta Dhanena Vatsa Srivatsa Vakshaha Stala Valavena. Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kadamba Jinkalka Pishanga Vasasa Svalankritam Mekala aya nitambe. Harena chananta danena vatsa. Shivatsa vakshaha stala valavena. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Kadamba kinjal kapisanga vasisa Solankritam me kalayani tambe Harena chananta dhanena vatsa Srivatsa bhaksha sthala vallavena.
Hare
Kadamba kinjal kapishanga vasasa swalankritam me kalayani tambe harena chananta dhanena vatsa Srivatsa vakshasthala vallabhena.
Hare Krishna. Word for word. Then you go up a little bit. Thank you. Kadamba kinjalka, saffron dust of the kadamba flower. Prishanga, dress of the color. Vasasa, by clothing. Su alankritam, well decorated. Mekalaya, by the belt. Nitambe, on the waist. Harena, by the garland. Cha, also. Ananta, highly. Dhanena, valuable. Vatsa, my dear Vidura. Srivatsa, of the transcendental marking. Vakshasthala, on the chest. Palabena, very pleasing. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Oh, my dear Vidura, the Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling the saffron dust of the kadamba flower, and he was encircled by a well-decorated belt. His chest was decorated with the Srivatsa marking and a necklace of unlimited value. Om Adinatmirandasya Gyana Ganashalakaya Chakshum Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Danati Swapadantikam. Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Rughunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamani Hari Priya. Panchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayani Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Pastatyadi Shatayani. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gunatisaye Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himadi Divachabhishandaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So we've already gone to text 28 and 29 is on the screen now, so I'll continue to the end. And then by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, guidance from the Parampara, we'll just see what we can talk about today. So text 29. Paradya Keru Yamani Praveka Paryashtadu Danda Sahasra Shakam Avyaktamulam Gripendram Ahindra Boga Adivita Valsham. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As a sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches, the Lord's body was decorated with valuable jewels and pearls. He was the self-situated tree, the Lord of all others in the universe. As a sandalwood tree is covered with many snakes, so the Lord's body was also covered by the hoods of Ananta. Report by Srila Prabhupada. The word Abhyaktamulam is significant here. Generally, no one can see the roots of a tree. But as far as the Lord is concerned, he is the root of himself because there is no other separate cause of his standing but he himself. In the Vedas, it is said that the Lord is Swashraya. He is his own support. There is no other support for him. Therefore, Avyakta means the Supreme Lord himself and no one else. Text 30. Characharako Bhagavan Mahidram Ahindra Bandung Salilopa Gudham Girita Sahasra Hiranya Shringam Avirbhavat Kostu Bharatna Garbham. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Like a great mountain, the Lord stands as the abode for all moving and non-moving living entities. He is a friend of the snakes because Lord Ananta is his friend. As a mountain has thousands of golden peaks, so the Lord was seen with the thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Ananta Naga. And as a mountain is sometimes filled with jewels, so also his transcendental body was fully decorated with valuable jewels. As a mountain is sometimes submerged in the ocean water, so the Lord is sometimes submerged in the water of devastation. Text 31. Vivitam amna imadu vatasya swakirti maya vanamalaya harim surendru vavyagyagamati dhamavi parikramat pradanike durasadam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma, thus looking upon the Lord in the shape of a mountain, concluded that he was Hari, the personality of Godhead. He saw that the garland of flowers on his chest glorified him with Vedic wisdom in sweet songs and looked very beautiful. He was protected by the Sudarshan wheel for fighting, and even the sun, moon, air, fire, etc., could not have access to him. Text 32. Tahirvantana bisana sarojam atmanam amba swasanam viyascham tadasha devo jagato vidata nata param loka visharga drishti. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When Lord Brahma, the maker of the universal destination, thus saw the Lord, he simultaneously glanced over creation. Lord Brahma saw the lake in Lord Vishnu's navel and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, the drying air, and the sky, all became visible to him. Text 33. Sakama bijam rajasu parakta Prajasi Shrikshan Iyad Ivadrispam Asod Vishal Gabi Muktastamidiyam Avyakta Vatmanya Vineshitatma. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Translation and purport. Lord Brahma, thus being surcharged with the mode of passion, became inclined to create. And after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began prayers on the path of creative mentality. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Even if one is in a material mode of passion, to create something in the world, he has to take shelter of the Supreme for the necessary energy. That is the path of the successful termination of attempt. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Jai. Shiro Pariki Jai. So, as the title says, manifestation of Lord Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And we see in these 6 texts the general situation. 1, Lord Brahma describing Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was Vishnu that Lord Brahma himself came from. A lotus stem and flower grew from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and from that, Lord Brahma was born. So, observe the other things. It's described in different parts of the same third canto. But this part here, the Lord Brahma is describing quite vividly Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. That means for this particular universe, the Lord in the Garbhodak ocean, Lord Ananta providing the resting place, the Lord being very much connected to Lord Ananta. One of the texts talks about him liking snakes because of his affection for Lord Ananta. And then towards the end of the text, then the whole idea of Lord Brahma's observation, and he also being the one connected with the particular mode of passion, and passion is the one that is connected with creativity. Then Lord Brahma began to get inspired to create. He creates the varieties in the universe, planets, demigods, different activities, different modes, and also the different varieties for each planet in all the planetary systems in the universe. Quite an undertaking if you think about it. Anyway, so in text 28, oh my dear Vidura. So this is Maitreya talking to Vidura. The Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling saffron dust of the Kadamba flower. We hear so many times when Krishna is described, he's also wearing a yellow cloth, yellow dhoti. He is bluish black, very fragrant, very just the brilliance coming from him is very, very beautiful. Of course, that is the Brahma Jyoti that Mayavadis seek to just go merge in to get some sort of peace and get some happiness from that peace. But there's no activity there. This is the Lord, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, there's a Garbhodakshaya Vishnu for every universe. Some from Mahavishnu, the expansion of Mahavishnu from all the universes come from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu for one. So this particular description here is about the Lord Brahma of this particular universe. So Maitreya is describing to Vidura what Lord Brahma saw. It shouldn't be surprising to anyone that the Supreme Personality of Godhead would be decorated like the way it's described. He is the owner of all riches. So why not? Have valuable jewels, pearls. It gets even more interesting when you talk about the declarations, especially in Goloka Vrindavan, the place that Srila Prabhupada is having us prepared to go. Goloka Vrindavan, yes, it is the highest in terms of distance in the spiritual world. It is the largest. It is the one that has the most variety of relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, every living entity has their relationship, special relationship with the Lord in one of the categories. So we all, even as conditioned souls now, still have our relationship with the Lord, but because we're in the material world, it's kind of on hold for now. It's not the Lord's fault. We asked to come here to be in this very difficult place where so-called satisfaction is just a question of counteracting the problems that material energy gives us, and then we call it satisfaction. We have made so many machines, and machines do a lot of the things that we would have to endeavor to do, and the machines do even things that we couldn't do ourselves. It's certainly not at the rate and not at the amount of strength that the machines put in, but the strength, but the energy, it comes from the Lord. And we've made life a little bit more manageable. But manageable is not a thing to be satisfied about. When you don't have to struggle to live, then real happiness comes. But everybody struggles to live. And we are in a situation where other living entities, as if struggling to live was not alone challenging, other living entities who are also living try to, they give us problems, especially the germs. Just living, they give us sickness. And then Srila Prabhupada is also mentioned in this world that we can't be totally peaceful here ever because this is a place where criminals are. So even if you want to live a life, or I want to live a life where I don't bother anybody and I follow the rules, there will be somebody who will cause a problem, either deliberately or by making a mistake. Just by making a mistake, sometimes somebody else suffers. And this is the world that we live in. So it can't possibly, for a person who is intelligent, or who Maya has not stolen the intelligence, Maya Parita Jnana, you're gonna put two and two together and say, this is not a place to be. I think I'm thinking I'm going to be happy, but it doesn't work that way. Not here. And especially in this age, Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel, the only way out is what Lord Chaitanya has mercifully given us. The Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, that connects us with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then if we humble ourselves to do service for devotees, to do service for Guru, and do service for the deity, then we are getting ourselves ready to leave, to go to a place where genuine happiness is at. So that's our situation in a nutshell. Lord Brahma is going to create varieties in the universe. And he's already describing Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So if he's describing Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, underneath that is reverence to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Why would he bother to describe the Lord if he didn't have a connection with the Lord that was very important? The lesson it teaches us is we are to be humble and stay as servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his servants. As Srila Prabhupada said, be servant of the servant of the servant. And so when we humble ourselves and relate well to each other, we are learning how to live as normally as possible in the spiritual world. That also means that we shouldn't be offending each other in any way. So, as Lord Brahma describes, and Srila Prabhupada, especially in text 29, you don't have to go there, but in 29, Sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches. The Lord's body was also had all kinds of valuable jewels and pearls. Mm-hmm. Srila Prabhupada talks about Avyakta Mulam in his purport. Avyakta Mulam, he says, is very significant here. And in the translation, Avyakta Mulam means self-situated. Self-situated. Mulam by itself actually means root. So Avyakta Mulam is like a self-situated root. Srila Prabhupada says, generally no one can see the roots of a tree, but the Lord is the root of himself because no one is above him. So he's not dependent on anyone. He's his own support. And another way to describe it is Swashraya Shraya. He's his own support. There's no other support for him. Ashraya, another way of describing it, means shelter. Shelter. So if the Lord is his own support, there's no other support for him. He supports himself and supports everyone else. Nityanityanan, Titanityanan, Titanat. Don't know why my tongue is twisting this morning. So Ashraya is shelter. So what should we do? We have to take shelter of the original shelter for everyone. We have to take shelter. It seems like it's quite obvious that this is what we have to do. But because of our free choice of things and our false ego, sometimes we want to take shelter of other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that's what complicates our life. So we have to take shelter of the original shelter for everyone. First, we have to understand the Lord Brahma, that's why he's saying he is his own support and he's also the shelter for everyone. How do we take shelter? We surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a practical way of taking shelter. Now, the reward for taking shelter through service, devotion, loving devotion service, is very stunning. The Lord Srila Prabhupada, as a spiritual doctor, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj described that every spiritual master is like a spiritual doctor. So we are in a diseased condition. So as a spiritual doctor, Srila Prabhupada focused on how to get us well and realize things as they are and do what Krishna says that we have to do. So shelter is by surrendering, and the reward is actually the greatest enjoyment by the living entity. The greatest enjoyment. We will get part of that peace of mind here, protection here, because when we take shelter, we get protected by the Supreme Lord or the Lord's agents. But the greatest enjoyment is waiting for us in the spiritual world. There is that level of enjoyment that the living entity, that's available for living entity while we serve the Supreme Lord. That enjoyment cannot be duplicated anywhere in the material world. None of them. Not even Brahmaloka. Not even Brahmaloka. There's a few of us that are reading through Brihad Bhagavatamrita and immediately can relate to this statement. As Gopakumara, who is devotee of the Lord, he's gotten mantra from his guru, and that mantra, whatever he wishes, he says the mantra, then it happens. So he's going through the different planets, planetary systems. He goes all through all of them, to Brahmaloka, and also up through the coverings to now the spiritual world. Now, just before he left, I'll just give you a little bit of Bhagavatamrita. In Brahmaloka, when some of the residents of the spiritual world met up with him, actually, when he passed that and he went to Shiva's abode, that's when he got more information about the spiritual world. But then they said to him, come back to Vrindavan, like on this earth in India, which he did. And again, he wanted to connect with his worshipable Lord, Gopal. But right at that time, And he was very happy to be back. He had gone to many heavenly planets, and he'd seen a lot of things. It's described there. We won't go into much detail there. It's quite interesting, quite interesting. But the Lord in a particular form is there, though, from Swagaloka on. Swagaloka, the Lord is there as Upendra, where Lord Indra is. And then Mahaloka, and all the way up to Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. There's a form of the Lord there in all of those planets. So he could relate to, but he was used to the Vrindavan relationship. So when he came back to Vrindavan, then the residents of Vaikuntha came in the Vaikuntha vehicle and took him to the spiritual world. Now, the reason we're bringing this up is as he was leaving the earth in this spiritual, wonderful, extremely decorated vehicle to go to the spiritual world, he passed by, clearly, when in the earth, you're going to go by all of these Swagaloka and Mahaloka and Janaloka, Tapaloka, all of that. He passed them in a very short period of time, but he noticed one thing, that the residents of those planets realized that he was in that vehicle. And they were offering obeisance to him, their hands like that. He said, and Gopakumara is very humble. So Gopakumara was feeling like, they don't have to do all of that to me. I learned a lot from them when I was in their planet. So why are they even doing all of this like I'm some very, very, very important personality? He was thinking like that. Again, this is all in Brihad Bhagavatam. I'm just paraphrasing. And so, but he went by them quickly to go to the spiritual world. They knew from those planets, those there knew that he was going to the spiritual world. And as Brihad Bhagavatam described, they felt very, very, very happy for him, but he was fortunate to be going. So when the time comes, it's not a matter of whether the time comes or if the time comes. The time will come for everybody. His Holiness Radha Govinda Maharaj has explained in one lecture that when you say yes to Krishna, you are definitely guaranteed to go to the spiritual world. Not by our own efforts so much as the mercy that we get. When one comes to Krishna and says yes to Krishna, they have began their journey back home. Now, the question is, would it be after we leave this particular body, or will we come back and do a little more work, or another life, do a little more work? This is all going to be in the human body. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, on the average, in the worst situation, 3 lifetimes. 3 lifetimes here when a third person says yes to Krishna. But you certainly can work on ourselves, and I certainly can work on myself to make this body the last one. That is what the Prabhupada encourages. He says, finish your business here in the spiritual, in the material world, here on this earth, so you can go home this lifetime. And if you have 1 year out or 1 eye out looking at the situation in the material world now, it's very precarious. Everybody is talking tough. The leaders of the different countries, they're talking tough, and at the same time, they're afraid. There's some fear. We talk tough, and then underneath, they want to talk about what they could do, because everybody's afraid for what they themselves have done. They manufactured atomic bomb, and they know that there's no war with atomic bomb. Atomic bomb is all over, and they really don't want to die. So they put themselves in precarious situation by what they themselves invented, the leaders of the world. So this is what they made of the material world. So should we really bother with them? Not really. Those who want to go to the spiritual world, those who want an alternative, yes, when we meet them, they will definitely come. And for us, we should try to get ourselves ready to go. This lifetime is better than waiting for another life or coming back for another life. We've been here many, many lifetimes. So we should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, Prabhupada is stressing that. There is nothing in this material world that we call happiness or sense gratification that comes even close to the life of a living entity in the spiritual world as far as the enjoyment goes. Yes, service is there. That is all woven in to how to serve Krishna or how to serve Vishnu, depending on the planet you are. Of course, we are being sent to Golok Vrindavan. But it is fascinating, very fascinating, extreme enjoyment. That's why the word bliss is given, rather than just happiness. Bliss is the highest happiness. So that's what's waiting for us. It's just a question of we take this process seriously. So, yes, we are in the material world, and the Lord is here, but the Lord's agents are really encouraging us and giving us so much and making life a little bit easy. Krishna consciousness has been put on sale practically. 64 rounds for Vaishnav. Now we're doing 16 rounds minimum as a way to go back to Godhead. So we should take advantage of the situation that we're in. Take great advantage of it. Lord Brahma, he got inspired to create. Yes, when he creates, he's creating things in the material world, but Lord Brahma knows better. Lord Brahma actually now lives with Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Mahavishnu, both. Mahavishnu also comes to Satyaloka. There's a lot of sacrifice going on, pujas, by the sages in Satyaloka. And they invite all of this, when you do that, then of course there's the ghee and all of that, that's used for the sacrifice, and the Lord gets invited. Mahavishnu gets invited, and he comes for his share, and he leaves. Lakshmi is with them. At night, when Lord Brahma sleeps, he sleeps on the lotus flower next to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Lord Brahma is already in touch with Lord Vishnu, the Lord Brahma of this universe. Not all Lord Brahmas are going to go to the spiritual world. That's another story for another time. But this Lord Brahma, our sampradaya, our system is Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Brahma's name is there. Brahma is going back to Godhead. Brahma has already been to, quite a number of times, been invited to Golok Vrindavan. He even officiated a function in Golok Vrindavan, but that's from Garga Samhita. That's another story for another time. There's so much. There is so much that talks about, describes the beauty and also the extent of happiness that's waiting for us. That's waiting for us. So we have to take things seriously. But back to this. So Lord Brahma was surcharged with the mode of passion. And passion is what underlies creativity. Srila Prabhupada describes the causes of creation. Every endeavor, if you want to do something, there are 5 things that the devotees have to understand. Non-devotees don't see this, but the devotees have to understand this. And it is in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 14. Dishtanam tata karta karanam cha pritagvidam. Vividas cha pritag chista devam chet vatra pancham. So, what are the 5 causes of action? The place of action, adhisthana, which is the body. The place of action. We use our body to do things. The performer, karta, the various senses, karanam, the many different kinds of endeavor. Pritak vedam chista. And then ultimately, and that's the one that people tend to leave out, ultimately the super soul, devam. The Lord allows us. If he doesn't permit us, we cannot do. So everything goes through the super soul, devam. So in text 15, in chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. Whatever right or wrong a man performs by the body, the mind, or speech is caused by these 5 factors. Whatever right or wrong. Hmm? So even a person plans to do something bad, like a thief wanting to steal, all of these also still apply. Hmm? The place of action, the performer, the various senses, the endeavor, and then the super soul. So one may say, if somebody's going to do something wrong, why would the super soul permit it? The super soul is not stopping us because we have free choice. But the intelligence is also there. And that is used by the super soul to warn us that there are consequences when we do something wrong. So that will come, definitely. Anybody that decides to go steal hears that little voice that is intelligence telling them this is the wrong thing, you could be arrested, life could be over for you, it could be very different for you. You might even get into a situation, or you might wind up killing somebody when you don't intend to, but the situation will be such that this unexpected occurrence might be on you, and all of a sudden you're a murderer. Even though you were thinking yourself a thief, thief becomes a murderer because of the situation. So all of these will be told to the person. We're taking an extreme situation here as an example. But if the person overrules it by their own choice, then all right, you go do. And whatever will happen, that's on you. So of course, as the Woodies, if you want to go back to Godhead, we're definitely looking at doing the right thing. But for the Woodies, sometimes there is some misunderstanding. And that happens sometimes on a larger scale or smaller scale, but it does happen because we don't have the same way we think about how things should be done, even when it comes to serving Krishna. Now, that's where humility becomes very important. Otherwise, our false ego kicks in. And then we begin to think that we know the best situation. And why is nobody following me? The other person also says, I know the best situation. Therefore, I'm going to do like that. Humility is extremely important. Anyway, so whatever right or wrong a person performs, action a person performs, these 5 factors are the ones that are there. Therefore, the person who thinks himself to be the only doer, this is text 16 of chapter 18 Bhagavad Gita, not considering these 5 factors is certainly not very intelligent, and they cannot see things as they are. The Lord is our support, our shelter, and if in his expansion as the Paramatma, he's the one that permits things to get done. He supervises and he also permits. Anumanta Upadrishta. So we think we are the doers. Person thinks that they the doers, when in fact it is everything is under the 3 modes of material nature. Unless, of course, we decide to do things that are transcendental by our Guru's instruction. Chant the holy name and the other 9 processes, the other 8 processes that comes with chanting of the holy name. So we think we are doers, and we always want to take credit due to what's happened. This is our normal, well, this is our nature now. It's not normal, but this is what we're doing in the material world. Why? Because of our false ego. So how does false ego manifest? Especially when we are materially successful. The person is materially successful, says, I'm the doer. I became successful due to my ability. After all, I went to school, I started a business, I endeavored, and now here's why I'm at this. But the ability, Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. So everything that became successful from what you call your endeavor was from the ability that Krishna gave, or property that Krishna gave. Some people they go places because of the way they look, physical look. Some based on the intelligence, but that's all ability. That's Krishna given, not us. But the person with the false ego becomes arrogant, even to the point where the arrogance is so big. Oh, I'm so popular. People listen to me so much that they forget that there are 4 defects, and one of them is making mistakes. They don't even accept mistakes. And it gets to a point where now false ego has gotten us to the point where we become insensitive and we start exploiting others, or we look down on other people because they're not as successful as we are. All these things affect us from the mind. Sometimes when we're by ourselves, we say, we're thinking of ourselves. False ego says, I'm the best. I don't think I need anyone. I'm just so independent. I don't need anyone else. And we can become comfortable with that. Or sometimes the other situation when we are with people. We want to be noticed. We want to be adored by everybody. We want to be a showman. Then, of course, we begin to manipulate people. We don't have much sensitivity because we want to show that we are better than most people. Therefore, we begin to clamor for popularity. Sometimes we have weaknesses, but because we want everybody to look up to us, the scientists are like that. We try to hide who we really are so that others cannot see the real mistakes and the weaknesses that are there. This is all from the false ego. We want to paint ourselves with a particular image that we are not, but we want others to think that way, just so that people will look up to us. So what is our conclusion? The Lord is the shelter. So we should take shelter of the Lord in all circumstances. In all circumstances. We should never think that we can do anything on our own. That is not the right way to think. By the Lord's mercy, things get done. And we are just the instruments to get it done. That's all. The devotee thinks that way and wants to do the right thing, at the very least in the mode of goodness, then he's on the right track. But in Kali Yuga, whatever we do, even if it's one of the categories of service, loving service, chanting cannot be put aside. That always has to come. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the bottom line is this: no chanting, no going back to the spiritual world. No chanting, no going back to the spiritual world. It is said that any one of the 9 processes can take us back to the spiritual world. And there are those who have gone to the spiritual world just with one. But our situation now is that we're so fallen. The Lord Chaitanya has come by his mercy to give us a mantra so we can develop love of Godhead. And through love of Godhead, the Lord will allow us to come. So we can't get around chanting, japa and kirtan. We cannot get around it. And especially japa, which is our own personal meditation. It's very, very important. And the earlier we do it in the day, the better. So we shouldn't clamor for recognition. What should we do? We should give the credit to Guru and Gauranga. Guru is our keeper. Krishna is giving us the Guru to guide us in this material world. Lord Gauranga, as Krishna himself, come as a devotee to show us. He talked about what to do in Bhagavad Gita for Arjuna before the Battle of Kurukshetra. And then he came 539 years ago to show us what it is like to be a devotee. So we don't have any excuse. We don't have any excuse. What's waiting for us is wonderful in the spiritual world. We have to put in the effort to get it. Mm. And if we give ourselves fully to Krishna, he will give himself fully to us. And when the Supreme Personality of Godhead that owns all that there is giving himself to us, what else do we need? So we have it made if we understand and we take the whole opportunity that we have here to be devotees very seriously. There will be conflict. When there is, we should strive to see the conflict resolved. That's what's important. Sometimes we will bring etiquette and other things into the picture. You may have good points, you may have some understanding of it, and you may feel very strongly about it, but the bottom line is resolution. In every temple, it happens. There should be resolution. Therefore, the body should push for a resolution to happen. Then the things return to normal and lessons are learned, and we go on. Because the ultimate, the Lord is a shelter for all of us. The ultimate is wonderful, wonderful enjoyment in the spiritual world. And that we should keep forefront. Never forget. We do all of these so that we can fit into life in the spiritual world. That's what's most important. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit. I got on my soapbox a little bit, but I apologize if that stepped on anyone's toes. This is the time to unmute yourself, dear devotees, and you can have some Krishna Katha questions, realizations, takeaways, and so on.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. You have the floor.
Always on a Sunday morning, it's always good to hear from you because you can take away some instruction that we can practice throughout the week. So at the very end, you said we should look for resolution. And sometimes resolution means I must step back from whatever it is I think is good or right. What can I do to help myself with that? If resolution is the goal, and the only way to do it is for me to compromise, because I cannot force the other person to compromise. That's up to them. That's in their hands.
Yes.
My compromise is in my hands. What can I do to help myself get there? Because I think you are very right. That is what is holding up the resolution. That's what's not helping that resolution come about, because I am not willing to step back from my viewpoint. You're not willing to step back from your viewpoint. And so I need to step back.
Yes, from that standpoint, if we do that, that is a sign of humility on our part, because we are looking for ways to actually resolve the situation. Now, that's one way. That's one on the one hand. On the other hand, or secondly, I should say, not that on the other hand, because we're not talking about something that opposes the next point. The next point, though, is that if a situation has affected a community, then that's what I was getting to. The community members should push for a resolution. They should push, even if they're not directly involved, they should still push for a resolution, because harmony in the temple or in the congregation is better than disharmony, needless to say. So you push for a resolution of the matter. You talk to the parties involved. Yes, we see your point. The other person also has a point, but the most important thing is to have harmony come again. In the marriage, this happens quite a lot. My Guru Maharaj was talking about it. It's not like the marriage that lasts a long time does not have its times where there is disagreement. There is. That happens. Now, what saves the marriage is how quickly, timely, the two sides come to discuss whatever things that are uncomfortable for each party, and come to a resolution, an understanding. How quickly, when it gets dragged on and on and on and on, and then it gets to a point where one party says, "So I don't think I want this life anymore," and then they leave, and here's a divorce or separation at the very least. So timing is also part of it. It's important. If it's not directly affecting you, it's not a situation where you're in or you're one of the parties that's opposing other parties, then what you can do is push both parties to get together to get this thing resolved. And you got to be a little persistent, because sometimes the parties, they're tired of each other, they don't want to deal with. But you got to be persistent. You have to be persistent. And persistent does not mean you're forced, but you definitely repeat, though. Prabhu, we're looking forward to this. We're looking forward to it. Please get together. You just keep saying that and repeating it. Add it to your mantras and you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And when you see, that's what's going to prick the other person, the two parties, to say, okay, we have to do this because the congregation demands it. That's all that's left now. It's not a question of people have looked at, okay, it can be seen from this standpoint, this person did this, person did that. But resolution is actually the best situation, and the congregation should push for it. That's what will help. Will help. Otherwise, there will be the end without resolution. The other alternative is not good for anyone. Needless to say.
Yes, Prabhu, and we see that in the world. If we keep
everywhere.
if we keep digging our heels and we keep going back to the injustices that have been done, what is done, and it cannot be changed. It cannot be undone. So the only way to go forward, and we have to go forward if we want this mission to be successful, if we want to do our service to Srila Prabhupada.
And the important thing, though, is we have to understand that everything that happens that even seems to be a skirmish, it seems to be a situation where people are uncomfortable, it is also a way for Krishna to purify the parties involved and to purify the community. This one, I can stake my life over it because Gitanagari, we saw it over and over and over and over again. And everybody that left, I can tell you something, I'm kind of laughing about it now. Because at the time, we were very, 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 very passionate about our point and this and that, and you did this and that, and Guru Maharaj told me that told all of us, the whole idea of us getting together and relating in the middle of nowhere. Gitanagar is the middle of nowhere. We only have the deities. There's nothing in town. Even sense gratification is so limited. Sense gratification, and we want that? Of course not. We don't believe that. So we had to deal with each other. Sometimes he made the point that Krishna puts devotees together, and His Holiness, I forget, and I can see the face. Hirananda Maharaj also came after my Guru Maharaj left his body in Girinagara. He also came, said the same thing. Radha Maharaj came, said the same thing in a different way. But it's a question of resolving. And in the resolution, that's where the lessons get learned. And the resolution, that's where the maturity comes, the growth. So we went through so much as God family members, hitting each other, this, that. We even saw some of the faults in the leaders, in the community, the board, and so on, and all kinds of things that happened. But now, for almost 30 years now, in the 90s, just 30, in 2025, we went in 1995. Yeah, so just 20 something to 30 years later, when any one of us meets the other person, it's like we've been through, as they say in America, we've been through the ringer. And now we don't jump on each other because it's like we've all learned lessons from it. And now not only are we very nice to each other, not only we're very respectful to each other, people devout obeisances to each other. So much we have to learn. So when problems happen, it's not necessarily bad. It's just that lessons are to be learned from it. If you look at it that way, that what are the lessons to be learned from this? So when the resolution comes, the community would also learn lessons from it. It's Krishna. It's Krishna. That's why it's Avakaranam Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. And sometimes things that are a little bit difficult comes in the process of learning. Why the Pandavas, look what they went through. They were pure devotees, but they put up with everything they went through. Bhima was so annoyed with so many things that were happening, but you just still had them go through it. Hmm? And in Krishna's time, they got what they got, which is what Krishna wanted. So everywhere, it's not really only everywhere, things will come up. Resolution is most important, especially if it's going to split, it has potentially split the congregation. Then there definitely has to be resolution. This is the congregation to turn on the parties involved and push for resolution. So this thing is because that's where the lessons are going to be learned. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Anybody else have any other comments or questions, please?
Unmute yourself. You can talk about something different. It's okay. You don't have to use this particular topic.
Yeah, that's very nice, class, Prabhu. Anyway, we always try to, we like this point because we want to apply it. I was thinking about resolution. And some people, they don't think that resolution is a solution for the problem.
Okay. If people, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, if resolution is a solution for the problem, what are the alternative?
When there is no resolution, then Krishna becomes the final decision maker.